בסדר, בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוך השם, good to be here at Pnei Sfaradim. Nice to see some new faces, B'ezrat Hashem we'll get some more people to come soon. We always have to look at the clock and then compare it to Israeli time, and we know there's always a difference a little bit. It's one of the things that anytime we work with converts, I tell them, listen, if you come on time, they're going to question you your whole life, if you're Jewish or not. So once you become Jewish, you have to show up late. So Baruch Hashem, some of my students listen to me even before the conversion. They listen even before the conversion. It's during the training, they already start coming late. So Baruch Hashem, we have lots of information, a lot of interesting things in regards to the personal story that some people like to hear. And also, I always like to add some musar eskel that we could learn from, in addition to the story itself. But if my shiurim are a little more interactive, meaning that it's not prepared. So if you have something in the middle of the shiur, don't worry about it. You can raise your hand and you could ask a question at any time. Even if it has, as long as it has something to do with what we're talking about, it's no problem. If it doesn't, we can still answer it. But the key of every shiur is that I want everyone to walk home with something. Leave home. Go and get something from the shiur. Let's say you're going to get some type of chizuk. Something in your life is going to change. That's the point of every shiur. If somebody comes to a shiur Torah and they come and they leave the same as they came in, they completely wasted their time. Completely wasted their time, and the Rav, whoever the speaker was, is going to be judged that way. In Shemaim. And unfortunately today, my Rav told me that we learned this one time. And he said, unfortunately, sometimes you have certain speakers that are very popular, and they can get crowds of 500 people, 1,000 people in some events, and it's a big waste. Why? Because sometimes you have 500 people in front of you, and sometimes the shiurim gives people the impression that everything is okay, no one needs to change, and the whole shiur is just full of jokes, and it's laughing, and it's funny, which is good for entertainment purposes, but not for shiur Torah. Meaning that a shiur Torah is supposed to do something for you. You're already a diamond, but anyone that knows about diamonds could always become a little bit better. If you cut it a little bit more, if it reflects the light a little more, it becomes more valuable. So a speaker needs to always know that he's talking to diamonds, but at the same token, these are uncut diamonds. They're not perfect like they're supposed to be. So if Hashem gave him an opportunity to speak to 500 people, to 5 people, to whatever it is, that means that Hashem gave him an agreement that he's going to hold him to it. Which means that after 120, a person comes up to Shemaim, Hashem will say, listen, in your lifetime, I gave you an opportunity to speak to 500,000 people. All the shiurim, 500 people, 200 people, 50 people, 5 people, this people, that people, all that. After a whole lifetime, you go up to Shemaim, you said, you reached 500,000 people. How many of those 500,000 people did tshuva? How many of them did anything? And he's going to start showing the person different things. This one guy, he laid tefillin 3 times. Okay, good, chazak u'baruch, 3 times is good, but it's not good for olam haba yet. This guy started eating kosher, but then he stopped 3 weeks later. This guy did do tshuva. Okay, so you have 1 guy, you have 2 guys, you have 3 guys. And then they compare it in comparison to the number of schut that Hashem gave you. Hashem gave you 500,000 people. And you have 1 person did tshuva. And the other 499,999, nothing changed. So they're going to evaluate, okay, why? Why didn't they change? Well, let's review every shiur. They review every shiur. Say, look, in this shiur you told them that Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. Well, we're reading the Siddur, which is from the Mishnah in Masechet Sanhedrin. So you told everybody that everything's okay. So why should anybody change? They came to your shiur feeling okay. They left your shiur feeling okay. In fact, they felt even better about themselves because you called everybody tzaddik. I tzaddik, how we tzaddik, tzaddikah, everybody tzaddik, tzaddik, tzaddik. Even though she forgot to wear clothes, even though he doesn't even have a kippah that he owns himself, he borrows from the Beit Knesset every time. But everybody felt they were a tzaddik, they came in, everybody left as a tzaddik, now that's why no one changed. So in Shemaim, they judged the speaker accordingly. Meaning that Hashem gave you an opportunity. He gave you a lot, and He also gave you the responsibility. And if a person doesn't take advantage of that responsibility, There's several places in the Gemara that it talks about it. Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah, Masechet Shabbat, Masechet Sanhedrin, a few places talk about the same thing. Talks about the mitzvah of ocheach tochiach et amitecha. You must rebuke your people. And the Gemara says, if he has the ability, if Hashem gives him the blessing, where his crowd is his family. His family. And he doesn't rebuke his family. He doesn't tell them the truth. He doesn't tell them to stop driving on Shabbat. He doesn't tell them that modesty is not a minhag. It's a halakha. He doesn't tell them that kosher is inside the house and outside the house. Not just whenever you feel like it. He doesn't tell them. So he just lets everybody decide for themselves. In Shemayim they say, oh, you didn't tell them. You knew the truth. You didn't tell them. Everybody's deen that's in the family, anyone that doesn't do tshuva, their deen is on you also. Shem Yachem. So now, poor guy, he thinks he kept mitzvot, everything is good, he went to B'Knesset, he put on tefillin, he goes to Shamayim, and they call him Mechalel Shabbat, they call him like he ate taref, they call him all these different things. He says, why? He says, because you had an opportunity to tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your son, tell your wife, you had an opportunity to tell them, we put them in your life, they were in your house, you didn't tell them, how are they going to know? Gemara continues and says, well, what about if he has opportunity to influence a whole keilah? He's a rabbi of a Bet Knesset. He's a rabbi of Bet Knesset. Bet Knesset has 100, 200 people. Gemara says, if he doesn't tell them, the deen of the all 200 people is on him. They also get. But him also, now he has the deen of 200 people. He goes up to Shamayim, he has the consequence of what happened to 200 different families. He said, what if he's Gdolado? What if he's the biggest rabbi? He's a famous speaker. He gets 1,000 people a week, 1,000 people a day. Some people are so well known, they can get 3, 4 lectures a week, each lecture 500 people. What about that guy? They say, even if he has been given the opportunity to speak to the entire world, he's so well known that he's speaking to the entire world, and he doesn't tell them the truth, then the deen of the entire world goes on him. Meaning that if a person is going to choose this profession, if you will, to teach people Torah, to tell people what Hashem said, he has to think about it twice. Why? Because it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do this if you're going to sugarcoat everything. And unfortunately today, this is what we have as a standard. In many places, and many people are very confused about what's the purpose of life. Why should I live? Why should I do tshuva? Why should I stay on the derech? Why should I not get off the derech? And so on and so on. Why should I do all of this stuff? This is what the biggest confusion of the generation. People simply have no idea why they should even live. Today I got a story of a poor 27-year-old girl. I think she was Jewish, I'm just not sure. The only reason why I think she was Jewish is because she says that one of her favorite foods was bamba. Americans usually don't eat bamba. But she was a very accomplished dietitian of some kind, or in New York. She had an apartment in Manhattan, and she was doing extremely well for herself. She was traveling constantly all over the world, trying every trefa that she could possibly find, but highlighting it for people to follow this diet plan so they could look good and look like a celebrity. And she lived what most people consider the life. Young, beautiful, lots of money, travel at will. What else do you want in life? Well, last night she decided to commit suicide. Shem Yachem. And she wrote a note. What is the summary of the whole note? There's no point to life. That's the note. I wish I would have met her 2 days ago. 2 days ago I would have met her. An hour before, I give her 500 points to life. 500 points to life that she never heard of in her life. Because if she would have heard one of them, she wouldn't have killed herself. But she lived 27 years in this world. She got everything everybody wants. What does everybody want? Everybody wants money. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants fame and fortune and do all this different stuff. All the materialism of the world. Everybody wants to be in Hollywood. She had it. She said, there's no point. She decided to hang herself. How many celebrities kill themselves on a yearly basis? The people that everybody looks up to. Every year they have, these events where Oscars and all types of award shows and so on, and they usually have like a ceremonial filming towards the end of all the ones that died during that year. And every year, a few of the people that died, they didn't die of natural causes. They died on purpose. Why would the person that everybody looks up to, the one that has all the money, has all the fame, has all the fortune, looks beautiful, looks this, has everything, why would such a person kill themselves? The reason is, Rabotai Karim, is because for the most part, most people in the world, and by most I mean the overwhelming majority of people, something like 99.9% of the world, simply do not know what's the point of life. Now they think they know it, and they try to go after it. Like I used to think I know it, and I went after it. But when I arrived at the wrong address, or I arrived at the right address, but it was wrong, you start losing the value to life. You start realizing, I got what I wanted, but now what? This is what the Torah Kedosha is supposed to teach us. Now there are many people that learn Torah, but they still don't know what the point of life is. And sometimes that's because they learn Torah superficially. They learn Torah like, unfortunately, they learn Torah theoretically, to do things, to keep a few mitzvot, to tell a few nice stories. But when it comes to, do you believe that HaShem runs the world to such an extent that He's responsible of every single thing in your life, including whether the chair is going to break that you're sitting on right now? Whether the light's going to continue working for the next couple of hours? Whether the check that somebody gave you today, he's a multimillionaire, he gave you a check for $50, whether it's going to clear or not. He's deciding that. Now, surprisingly, there was an organization that came out with a research about 1.5 years ago called Nishma Research, and they said that only 51% of religious modern Orthodox Jews believe this. Meaning that half of the religious Jews today that are modern Orthodox believe that Hashem actually runs the world to such an extent that He makes sure that everything and anything in your life works. The check clears, your vision works, your bank works, your employees, everything works. Meaning Ashgacha Pratit. He's monitoring everything. Only 51% believe this. Rabbeinu Bechaya says, a person that does not believe in Ashgacha Pratit is worse than an idol worshiper. Why? An idol worshiper, even though he's guaranteed Gehinom, he doesn't insult God to the same extent. Why? Because even the idol worshiper has a limit of how many idols he worships. He worships 2 gods, 3 gods, 4 gods. It's limit. He's not worshipping anything that... He just worships. He has a limit. The elephant, the cow, and the mouse. Okay, so you decide he has 3 gods. Wrong, but still it's 3. The guy that doesn't believe, the woman who doesn't believe in Ashgacha Pratit, have an unlimited amount of gods. Why? The customer came in, he's now God. Why? Because I have to give this customer everything all of me, to make sure that I get the money. Because you think that the whole thing, it's only going to happen if you're good at what you do, and if you're going to convince them. Meaning now you're starting to worship the customer. Then you go to the bank. You want to apply for a loan. Guess what? Loan guy, that guy that makes $35,000 a year, but acts like he makes $35 million. The guy that's going to decide whether you're going to get the loan or not. He became God now. Why? Because you're so worried when you're about to meet him. You wear a tie all of a sudden, and a jacket, and you start talking appropriately. Yes, we have a very good business, and it's, how many employees you have? We don't have employees yet. Well, where's your office? We don't have an office yet. But listen, let me, we have a very good idea. And you're so worried when you're talking to him. Why? Because this guy is like, you feel, he's going to decide whether you're death penalty or not. If he gives you the loan, you get the deed of life. No loan, Shem Yachem. He became God. And a person that does not believe in Hashgacha Pratit literally makes every single encounter they have in their life into God. Rabbeinu Bechaye says, this is not only horrible, it's a constant insult to Hashem, it's worse than the idol worshiper. So the Torah Kedosha is supposed to teach us not just the halachot, not just the laws, but also that Hashem is here with us, running every single little thing that happens in our life. And sometimes the message that we get from different people is not clear. It's not clear. Why? Because sometimes you have somebody that is going to tell you different things, that's going to confuse you, or you don't ask the right questions. So it's very, very important for everybody to always ask the right questions and always look for the answer. If you didn't get the answer you want, it didn't make sense. Like, for example, I asked 20-something years ago, I asked the rabbi, do they have dinosaurs in the Torah? And he told me no. I use this as an excuse to not listen to anything else the Torah says. I didn't know what the rest of what the Torah said. I just knew that if the Torah doesn't have dinosaurs, there's something wrong with it. That was one of my excuses. It started a domino effect of excuses of why I shouldn't listen to everything else. If it doesn't have dinosaurs, something's wrong with it. Why? I saw the dinosaurs in the museum. I saw dinosaurs on TV. I saw dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, the movie. It looks real. Maybe one of them was real. Who knows? So in my mind, my teenager mind, I was like, if there's no dinosaurs in the Torah, must be something wrong. The reality is there is dinosaurs in the Torah. They're called Tananim Agdolim. But the point being is that a person needs to know that sometimes you can ask people certain questions, they may not know the answer. If you didn't get the answer that you want, you have to go look further. You have to look deeper. And this is what we talked a little bit about last night. Now, this was one of my biggest problems for most of my life, is that I had a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I like to think. I like to look for the meaning of things. And I like to get to some level of conclusion. So when I went to different religious figures that I knew, whether it was at the Beit Knesset, or you would meet somebody, or they would come to my office, and I would ask once in a while a question, and they give me an answer, or they gave me something that didn't make any sense, with no explanation or no source, this fed the fuel of my Yetzirah. So when I decided to listen to my rabbi's advice, which is to become a speaker and teach Torah, I decided that no matter what, I need to know everything that the average person is going to ask. Everything that the average person is going to ask, which is the same questions that I asked. But without sugarcoating it, without being afraid to whether they can handle it or they can't handle it, without being afraid of all of this. And the reason why is because a person can live in their life for 20, 30, 40, 50 years without really ever having a purpose. So I started my journey by coming to the United States when I was 10 years old. This is about 30 years ago. And in Israel, we were considered, equivalent to modern Orthodox. We went to a semi-religious school where we wore a kippah, we wore tzitzit, but there was boys and girls, like it's very common today, in the same school, even if they're teenagers. And aside from that, again, we learned a lot of secular studies also, and not everybody was exactly as religious as you're supposed to be according to halakha. But this is how we grew up, and we were very modern. So when we came here, it didn't take too much to break. When you've already made a few leniencies, you already played with the gray area one too many times, you get used to the gray area. Now, if you ask any thief, any person that's ever stole a lot of money, did you intend to steal all that money? 99 out of 100 times, no. White-collar crimes. I'm not talking about people that are like murderers. I'm talking about white-collar crimes. People that like cook the books on a big company. You know, they cheat on their earnings. They cheat on their financials in order to inflate their stock. They didn't start out that way. They didn't start out with the intention of cheating. 99 out of 100 times. I study this. Why did they do it? They studied it because they said, listen, when I started the company, everything was going good. But in order to get the loan, to get better, I had to cheat a little bit with the gray area by telling the banker that we are making $10 million in revenues, even though we're only making one. Why? Because I was expecting 10 million. I was expecting 10 million, so I wrote what I was expecting instead of what I was actually doing. Why? Because if I would tell him what I was actually doing, he'd lend me $5. But if I told him what I'm expecting, he'd lend me $1 million. You understand? It's a big difference. It's a little gray area. What does he care? I know, I'm confident. I know I'm going to make the money. And you see, it worked out. The guy played with the gray area. He lied. Midvar sheker tichak, the Torah says, but he didn't, not only didn't go away from it, he did it, and what ended up happening is it worked out. It actually worked out. The deal worked out. He made a little bit of money. Now the company is worth more money. Little by little, he's a few more loans, a few more deals, and every deal, the line, the red line, goes a little further. Why? Because if my little lie, my gray area lie on the original application, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be here today. He justifies it. I wouldn't be here today. If I didn't lie originally for that $1 million deal, there would be no $100 million company. So he justifies it. So now I want to get another $100 million deal. So what is it? So I have to do the same thing. So he tells the next company, the investment bankers, the brokers, all the different companies, like, listen, yeah, we're going to make $500 million this year. We're going to make $500 million this year. And they say, oh, we're going to value based on this $500 million. And he's thinking to himself, there's no way in the world we're going to make $500 million this year. It's just that they're thinking I'm going to make $500 million in profit. What they don't understand is I meant $500 million in revenues, in sales. But I didn't say. I said we're going to make $500 million. It's their problem that they understood $500 million in profits. I didn't tell them it's $500 million in profits. I said we're going to make $500 million. He knows they understood $500 million in profits. And he knows he meant $500 million in revenues. But he says, this is a gray area. It's their problem. They misunderstood me. It's their problem. Why? It's a gray area. You misunderstood. You should have asked the question. The line just went a little further. The year passed. Hey, where's the $500 million in profits? Where do you go? No, I didn't mean $500 million in profits. You didn't understand me. I meant $500 million in sales, you silly guy. No, come on, don't be so silly. We're only a 3-year-old company. You want us to make $500 million in profits? Come on, stop joking around. The guy's not joking around. The guy feels like he wants to bury himself. Why? He valued the company when he made an investment, something else. But he's stuck now. He can't get his money back. Now, another step. He starts cheating on certain things. He knows that there's certain laws in the U.S. where there's certain things, there's certain write-offs, there's certain ways that you can deduct things from expenses, there's certain things you can do with the books. You can start calculating your inventory as if you sold it. You can start calculating inventory, you don't even have it yet, and so on and so forth. Little by little, the guy starts creating a kitchen in his accounting department. He's cooking the books. And eventually they realize, like many companies, one day they announce, we're sorry, we overstated earnings for the last 10 years. In reality, we don't have $10 billion in the bank. We actually have $100 million in the bank. And we have $10 billion in debt, though. We have debt we have. If anybody wants to buy the debt, we have that. And what ends up happening? The stock crashes to nothing. A few people go to jail. And everybody loses their money. Because the stock goes, there's no time to sell. The stock goes down 99% before the stock even opens. And then there's the lawsuits and so on, but they say to the guy, what happened? I didn't intend for it to get this big. I just started one way. It got a little bigger, a little more. Over time, it's people were expecting me to win. I couldn't disappoint them. And he justifies this. So when a person starts breaking some of the laws that are big laws in Torah, whether it's Shabbat, or it's Taharat Mishpacha, or it's Kashrut, or it's even Limud Torah. Rabban Yochanan said, anyone that doesn't make Aitim la Torah, lo kam betchiyat hametim. Anyone that doesn't make time to learn Torah each day, he's not going to be resurrected with the dead. Why? Why should he? He doesn't even know how to live a kosher life if he doesn't learn Torah every day. He doesn't have to learn 24 hours a day, but just has to make time to learn Torah every day. Gemara says, if you don't make that time, you have a serious problem in Shamayim. Why? Eventually, there's resurrection of the dead. You want to be brought back, right? How? So, when a person starts playing with the gray area, where he says, listen, technically, this is not like the worst thing in the world. It's like a little sin. It's not a big sin. He starts evaluating the sins like you evaluate stocks. This is like a small sin. This is a big sin. This is this sin. What ends up happening is the line gets further and further. The line gets further and further. The little sins become bigger sins. The bigger sins become bigger sins. And little by little, he becomes completely secular, but he still pretends to be religious. Why? Because he still has the kippah. He still goes to the Beit Knesset on Shabbat. And he feels religious. In reality, though, as soon as he finishes the Beit Knesset, he goes home, he plays with his phone. Sometimes he even watches TV. Sometimes he'll even drive to Beit Knesset and feel perfectly fine. I remember when I lived in Boca Raton, I would say they had at least 100 to 150 cars. 100 to 150 cars driving to Beit Knesset on Shabbat. They had a whole parking lot for them. They had a whole separate parking. They didn't want to have the parking lot right next to the Beit Knesset, so they have a lot right next to the Beit Knesset. Meaning it's like you could throw the rock, like right over this little thing. That's where the other parking lot was. So we don't see it, because there's trees. We pretend it's not there. We pretend there's not 200 cars there. And 200 cars, you see people coming out with a big kippah, with a nice talit bag. And you look at this Talmid Chacham. How do you know he's not a Talmid Chacham? Because you go, tit, 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 and he goes inside the Porsche. Oh, not Talmid Chacham. He can't count him for minyan. Shem Hashem. Why? He's driving on Shabbat. Well, you think he started this way? No. It's breaking one law, and then a little one, and you make that. So when we came to the United States, we were already weak. And what ended up happening is that as soon as we found out that the schools in America are very expensive, even back in those days, we figured that it's an American educational system. Let's join the American educational system. We didn't know that as soon as you join public school, you become a goy automatically. And that's what happened. Me, my 3 brothers all went to public school. My youngest brother was still a baby. He was 2 years old. But the rest of them went to public school. And literally overnight, all of the mitzvot we learned our whole life went right into the garbage. The only time during the year we had a reminder that the mitzvot even exist is on Friday we have Kiddush. So we say, Shalom Aleichem. After we finish Shalom Aleichem, turn on the TV. You finish Shalom Aleichem. Thank you. Why? The Malachim, they came to, we say Shalom Aleichem. Yeah, somebody comes to your house, you're not going to say Shalom Aleichem. Say Shalom Aleichem. So they come in and sit down with you watching TV. That was you don't think about it. You just go, Shalom Aleichem. The angels came. Come, watch TV. We're watching Oprah. Watching Transformers. Come, no, Malach, good one, Malach one. Let's watch TV together. As you get a little older, you Shalom Aleichem, Mekadesh Yain, you give sanctify the yain, then you sanctify the car. Go to the movies. Go to the club. So what ends up happening is that it didn't start this way, but it ended this way. And you go through life little by little making that line. Within a short period of time, me and my brothers became pretty much full-blown goyim, where simply mitzvot were just a certain reminder that you're a Jew. Somebody asks you where you're from, you say Israel, where, which by default means you're Jewish most of the time. And you have the Chagim, on Rosh Hashanah, you eat some apples with some dvash and some other strange food that no one really likes, but you feel like you have to do it. On Pesach, you eat matzah with chocolate, and you're jealous of everybody else that's eating ice cream, because in those days there wasn't kosher ice cream. Everything was chametz. A lot of things changed in the last 30 years. And then on Yom Kippur you fast and torture yourself. How? By sleeping for 22 out of the 25 hours. You sleep for 22 hours, and you go to Beit Knesset for Ne'ilah. And then you ask everybody during the prayer, instead of praying for Ne'ilah, you ask everybody, so who donated? Who donated how much? How much? Did Sammy donate 20,000 this year? Because last year was 20,000. Did he donate 20,000 this year? Oh no, this year he did better. He did 25,000. Tzaddik. What tzaddik? 25,000 this year. Shtabach shimo. What tzaddik this guy is? He drove to Beit Knesset on Yom Kippur. Tzaddik. Why? Because it all becomes the whole Shulchan Aruch, the book of laws of Torah, becomes a minhag. That's why it's like a little bit of a joke among religious people to say, if Shabbat was a minhag, everybody would keep it. It's a reality. The minhagim we know, halachot we don't know so much. This was our life. And we had many rabbis come to the community, come to the synagogues, come to the house, a couple of shiurim here and there. At 17 years old, I had a break from college, or 18 years old, I had a break from college. And during that time, somebody motivated my dad to convince me to go to a yeshiva for a couple of weeks instead of waste my life doing nothing during the spring break. Go to a thing. I said, okay, no problem. I went. I liked it. And I decided to do tshuva. The problem is, tshuva is not just putting on a tzitzit, a mitpachat, eat some kosher, and you're finished. Tshuva requires learning every day. If you don't learn every day, it's not going to last. So I did tshuva, and started wearing tzitzit, and no kippah. I was scared of the kippah. Tzitzit was easier for me because no one could see it. I wore tzitzit, and I started laying tefillin, and I would listen to a few shiurim here and there on CD. In those days, not CD, in cassette tapes. You guys know what cassette tapes are? You guys know what cassette? You guys ever see a cassette tape? I have to know what I'm dealing with here. You guys are old enough to be my kids. So I don't know. So now I saw that I started listening to some shiurim, little by little. The shiurim started becoming less and less on my playlist. Music was more interesting. Studying in college was more interesting. I was interested in becoming a psychiatrist, so I learned a lot of psychology. I was a good student. And little by little, started making leniencies for myself. Why? Because I didn't have a rabbi, and the shiurim were less frequent. Eventually, I stopped altogether, so I always felt like weird. I was the only guy in college. I came like a Baal Tshuva. First semester, I was Mr. Party Boy. Second semester, I'm Mr. Baal Tshuva. I'm wearing a tzitzit. I keep Shabbat. So how do you keep Shabbat in college? You simply go to sleep. Why? Because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. So one rabbi would have a kiddush. You go to the kiddush. You hang out there for an hour and a half. Get some free food. And then you go back to your room. You have nothing to do because everybody else goes parties. You go to your room and you're just looking at the walls, waiting for, to get tired enough. So you figure, okay, let's do something. What can I do? Oh, you know what? Next week I'm going to do something better. Next week I'm going to get a nice case of beer. It helps me sleep. So next week, I went to the Kiddush. I said Shalom Aleichem. I went home. Nice case of beer. And that was Shabbat. But I saw all my friends. They had a couple of beers with me and they went out and I felt miserable the whole Shabbat. So then I said, okay, you know what? I have to have somebody with me. So I'd have, a friend here and there will come visit for a little while. How long can this last? It lasted exactly as long as it took me to find somebody that I liked. And as soon as I found somebody that I liked, everything went into the garbage. Why? You make one leniency, then another leniency, then another leniency, and all of a sudden you're acting like husband and wife before you're husband and wife. All of a sudden the fact that she's not Jewish doesn't really matter. All of a sudden the Shabbat that you were keeping for the last few months, like, you know what? I'll just keep it once I get married. You start giving yourself like to-do list. You put Shabbat on a to-do list. I'll do it later on. I'm too young now. I still got to have fun. And now I fell off after keeping it for about a year and a half or so. I fell off completely, and it took me a long time. Long time to realize this was a mistake of my life. The reason why I realized it took me a while to realize it was a mistake was because I went into business. And after working for a few people for a couple of years, I started becoming more independent within a company. And as soon as I became independent, I realized that I'm very different than everybody else. They like a schedule. They like to come to work at 9 and leave at 5. I don't have a schedule. I have ambition. What's my ambition? I want to become a millionaire as soon as possible. So they want to go to work at 9 and leave at 5. Good for them. I'm going to come to work as soon as I wake up. So I'll get to work at 6:30 in the morning. The only reason it was 6:30 or 7 is because it took me an hour and a half to get to work. And I'll work until simply I can't move, which is somewhere around 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So you work from 7 o'clock in the morning until about 1 o'clock in the morning. You have a pretty good schedule. You travel 3 hours a day to go to work. If it's a good traffic, only 2 hours. You sleep for a couple of hours and do it all over again the next day. That was my schedule. After doing this for a little while, things started working out. By November of 2002, I broke a company record, and the president of the company I was working at, which was a big firm called Raymond James, sent me this letter. He sent me a letter telling me, congratulations on your record production. And he sent me a nice letter, and this letter meant everything in the world to me. Why? Because somebody recognized how great I was. Because now I have a purpose. What's the purpose? To be great. I made more money than everybody else. So I made a ton of money. Great, they have 5,000 people in the firm. This little 22-year-old little kid just made more money than everybody else. I'm the president of a company. You know, it's a public company. Send me a personal letter, handwritten letter. Wow, 6-figure month. So I have a purpose. Next month I made a little bit more. Next month I made a little bit more. By August of the next year, they sent a list, company-wide list, of the top 25 producers in the entire country. And I wrote on the list, that's me. And I showed it to all my clients. Why? Because I was on the list. I was number 3. 23-year-old kid is on the list of top 25 brokers in the entire country as far as production. Not because they liked me. Because of how much money I was making. They liked me. That's why I was making so much money. But nonetheless, they like my money too. So now at this point that I'm on this list, I agree that I'm great. They say I'm great, I agree. So I say I'm so great, I'm too great to be here. I got to start on my own. I'm going to open up my own company. And that's what I do. At that point, once I open up my own firm, money continues to grow. It gets to a point where every month, a bad month, I'm making $200,000-$300,000. A good month could be over $500,000, maybe even $1 million. Throughout the years, I dealt with a lot of people, and I had 2 types of people in my life. I had my clients and I had my employees. There was no friends, there's nothing in between. Why? There's no time to have friends. There's time to deal with certain people. You could be friendly. You could be nice to people. But my job was to be great. My job was to help as many people as I possibly can. So the clients, I helped the rich people become richer. That was my job. They were rich, they wanted to become richer. Why? Because that's their purpose in life. Someone that has, the Gemara says, a person that wants 100, you give him 100, now he wants 200. You give him 200, he wants 400. You give him 400, he wants 800. Why? That's the way he was created. He's never happy with his share. As the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah says, no person in the world ever died with even half of what he wanted. Because he wasn't happy with his share. So now the person that I'm dealing with is the customer, and this customer wants more. I ask him, how much do you have in the market? He says, I have $1 million, I have $2 million, I have $3 million. I said, okay, what's your intentions? What are you looking for? I said, more. That's what he wants. He wants more. That's what they would deal with me. They want to make 20% more, 30% more, 50% more every year. Because whatever they have is not enough. This is why people that are on a Forbes 500 list, that have more money than they can spend even in several generations, still go to work every day, and not necessarily their day job. They're not cleaning bathrooms, but they still do deals. The guys from Amazon that was worth $100 billion before he divorced his wife like a fool, that guy, he still goes to work every day to try to make more money. Warren Buffett, that's, it's literally a rock throw away from the cemetery. He's 90 years old already. He still goes to work every day. Bill Gates, that already made more than enough of a fortune 20 years ago, he still goes to work every day. It's not the same work they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but meaning they're still working to make more. Why? Because when you have the ability, you have money, the money has to do something. Because you feel like it has a life. It's become part of you. The money has become part of you, and if it doesn't do anything, then you feel like there's no point to your life. So you can say, wait, there's a lot of fun things to do in life. Okay, so name them. Oh, you want to go on vacation? They went on vacation. Now what? Go on another vacation. Okay, you go on another vacation. Now what? Go on another vacation. Go on another vacation. Your whole life is a vacation. Now what? Read a book. Read a book. Read 2 books. Read 10 books. Read 150 books. Now what? Get married. Got married. Kids. Had kids. Now what? What else is there? What else is this life supposed to be? What else do you do? Eat. Eat every food that moves and doesn't move. What else you want? What else is there to do in life? Eventually you get to the point where it's like, okay, something has to be the purpose. It can't be marriage because I got married and divorced 5 times, the guy says. I got married and divorced. I'm an expert in getting married and even a bigger expert in getting divorced. The rabbi, he goes to the rabbi, yeah, get married, but the rabbi gives him a business card. Why? He says, listen, when you get divorced, call me. When you get divorced, call me. Why? He has more money for the divorce. He's an expert in getting married, expert in getting divorced. So he got married, he got divorced. It can't be the purpose of life. Kids, he has kids with every woman he ever saw. It's not the purpose of life. Money, he has more money than he can count. Food, does anybody really think that the purpose of life is food? That means you're a cow. So what is the purpose of life then? What's the point? What am I doing here? So the guy that has money is convinced that's the purpose. To make more. Why? I could do more. What else can you possibly do? I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there. So he starts donating to different organizations to make himself feel good. And he'll put his name on the building. And he'll donate a synagogue. And he'll donate a cancer center. And he'll help a few homeless guys. And he'll help a few people that are miserable. And so on and so forth. And he feels like this is good. But then he commits suicide. Why? Because it wasn't enough. He still didn't get to be happy. And he still has to go and constantly make this money do something in hopes that eventually someone will tell him the answer, what's the point of life? This was the journey that I was on, and I believed that I was going to be 93 years old, still on my desk, making deals, buying buildings, buying companies, selling companies, firing people, hiring people. I thought that was the point of life. And I had an opportunity to rub elbows with some very, very wealthy people and some very miserable people. Both. Usually the miserable ones were sometimes rich, but sometimes they worked for me too. And in essence, you get to meet a lot of different people. The guys that worked with me for a long time, as far as the clients, you become friends with them. You do deals, but then you start socializing a little bit. You start realizing, wow, they have much worse problems than me, and they have all this money. One guy, I remember this guy, Turlip, had started a dog food company, made a fortune. He already died years ago, but during the years we did business, we made a lot of money together. And the poor guy, Turlip, gave his business to his 2 sons. And instead of being grateful, one of his sons decided that his father is an enemy. Everything the kid has is from his father. He didn't work a day for it. He became CEO overnight, but in reality, he didn't earn the job. But he decided that his father, since his father had an argument with his wife, his father's the enemy, he didn't want to talk to his father for years, until he died. So, if that's the purpose of life, if this kid is the purpose of life, your life just lost its purpose. So you get to see that some of the money problems that these rich people have, it's problems that the poor people don't realize that they have. If they knew it, they wouldn't want to be rich. Nobody would want to be rich. Once you see what kind of problems they have. Money is never going to solve all your problems. It's only going to let you arrive to your problems with a limo. That's all it's going to do. It's a tool. So I learned a lot from my clients about life. And I would teach my employees, the ones that wanted to get rich quick. They wanted to get rich overnight. Now you can't get rich overnight legally. So they always constantly would ask me a different question, the same question 500 different times of how they can cheat their clients. And every time they would get the door slammed in their face because I'm not a thief. So every day I said, just go to work and eventually you'll be successful. Oh, but we can't. They're doing it as at the other firm. I said, yes, you'll see. Eventually they're all going to go to jail. And eventually all those other people went to jail. There was one guy, this thief that worked on Wall Street up the street from us. He stole 14 employees from me in 1 week. Why? He convinced all of them that they're all going to become millionaires in a year. And doing what he said and so on and so forth. And he literally built a monstrous firm in 1 year. He had maybe 300, 400 people in 1 year, what people don't build in a lifetime. 300, 400 people in a huge boardroom, very impressive. He was on TV every other day, and it was a very impressive figure. Until the SEC showed up and said, "You're all under arrest." Why? You can't win them all. Eventually they figure out you're a thief. So the young guys that wanted to get rich quick sometimes would leave, sometimes would stick around. Many of them had different problems. Sometimes they had drug problems, sometimes they had marriage problems and different problems. So you try to be a counselor for them. But the advice that I would give to them is the same advice that I would follow myself, which is the purpose of life is to be successful. Get a wife, get a kid, whatever it is that you want to do with your personal life. But in essence, if you're going to actually work, just be successful at it, whatever it is that you're doing. And then you could do other stuff in life, whatever. You want to donate a building, donate a building. That was the point to life. Point to life is to make money and go do something with it. This is as far from the truth as possible. Anyone that thinks that the point to their life is for them to have a wife, a husband, get a few kids, make a bunch of money, and die this way, if you think that's the point of why God created the heaven and the earth, you're sadly mistaken. You sadly have no purpose to that life. Why? HaShem says in the Torah, "Liya kesef v'liya za'av ne'um HaShem tzevaot." Mine is the money, mine is the gold. Meaning, all the money that we say, it's my money. He says, what are you talking about? It's my money. It's my money. I'm just lending it to you during the time that you're alive. You're just playing with my money. It's like, it's like somebody lets his kid play. He has a little bit of cash in his pocket, and he leaves it on the table, and his little 3-year-old decides to play with it, because it's toys for him. If the father's a normal person, he's not going to yell at the 3-year-old. He's going to let him play with it, because for him it's fun. So the kid feels like it's his toy now. His $100 bill, this $20 bill, this single, this couple of coins. He feels like it's his money for the time being. That's us. HaShem gives us a little bit of money that we feel like it's ours. But HaShem says it's mine. It's my money. So a person thinks that this money is their life. That's their purpose. They wake up later on in their life realizing that it was all a mistake. Sometimes it's too late. Because sometimes they don't have enough of a spine to look for a new purpose. Like this 27-year-old girl decided that she has money, she has fame, she has everything that everybody else wants, and she's not happy. Therefore, there cannot be any purpose to the world, and she decides to commit suicide. Many people are just like her. Sometimes the signs that Hashem is giving us, we ignore. And that's what I was doing. So I was making money, I was doing everything I wanted to do, but still never really happy. Why? Because I was constantly looking for something else to fix this hole that's inside. Okay, I got the money now. In May of 2006, I made $1.6 million for the month. Plenty enough money to justify going on vacation for a month. So, in June, I decided to go to Las Vegas for 5 weeks. I'm still making money from there, just working off of, the phone. I don't have to be in an actual office. I'm still working, but on vacation. During the day, I'm working. During the night, I'm playing the casino in a World Series of Poker and different poker tournaments, because poker became my new fix. It became my stimulant. It became my new game. Why? Because it's a mental game, and it's fun to beat other people. And I figured that maybe this is my purpose, to become the best poker player in the world. So I played with the best of them, and I beat some of them. And I wanted to become a professional. But then I realized that my biggest leverage was the fact that I wasn't scared of losing because I had a real business, while everybody else was scared of losing. Because that was their business. The poker table was their business. So I played for a little while, I played for a few years, I did pretty good, but in general, continued to work. So after I came back from this vacation, in 2006, I decided, okay, so poker is not the purpose. I could continue playing, but it's definitely not the purpose. Maybe I should just feel better, take care of my health. So I started eating a little bit better, started treating myself a little bit better, my body a little bit better. And then one day I decided, you know what, let me have a surgery that for this thing that annoys me once or twice a year. And I went to the doctor. The doctor said, listen, you know what, you can have this surgery. It's an elective surgery, meaning you don't actually have to have it. It's not a heart condition. But you can have it. It's a simple surgery. You have the surgery in the morning. It's a short surgery. You leave the same day. You don't stay in the hospital. We send you home. And you feel uncomfortable for a few days, which in medical terms mean you're in a lot of pain. And you go back to work a few days from now. I said, how much time am I going to be away from work? He says, maximum 3 days. You're going to feel uncomfortable for a few days. Discomfort, they call it. Discomfort. It's discomfort. Why are they called discomfort? Anybody know? Because it's uncomfortable for them to look at, so they send you home. So I have the surgery on a Wednesday morning, and I wake up out of the surgery with a different body. Why? My body came into the surgery relatively healthy. Woke up out of the surgery very, very sick. Something happened during the surgery where they cut some type of nerve, they did something to my body where I went through such trauma that the nerves would not stop. Meaning the pain did not stop. When I woke up out of the surgery, I was screaming my lungs out, telling them to stop cutting me. And they told me, they said, we're not cutting you, the surgery's finished. And I'm screaming my lungs out because I'm feeling as if they're cutting me over and over again. But everywhere in my body. Not where the surgery was. Everywhere. And I just feel like they're cutting me over and over and again. And they're starting to say, something went wrong, obviously. Let's give him some morphine. So they gave me some morphine. Now, since I never did drugs in my life, no one knew how I would react to them. Well, apparently, it doesn't react. I got morphine, nothing happened. So they had to give me more, because I continued to scream and ask my wife to kill me, ask my mom to kill me, ask the doctors to kill me, but they didn't want to kill me, so they had to give me more morphine instead. More morphine, guess what? It didn't work. I'm continuing to scream, I'm continuing to yell, I'm continuing to cry out for my life. More morphine, more morphine. Eventually they told my wife we gave him the most amount of morphine legally allowed. If it doesn't work at this point, there's nothing we can do. Baruch Hashem, Hashem had mercy on me and it actually worked. My body calmed down. And I thought that I saw hell. And something that I learned just a little bit about 10 years before that. And I figured, okay, it's over. It's finished. There was some type of mishap, but it's done. What gave me the confidence that it's done? They assured me that I'm perfectly fine to go home. So I said, listen, we don't know really what happened, but you're fine now, right? You could walk, you could, everything's good, right? Yeah, go home. It's an elective surgery. You didn't have to be here even. Go home, relax. So I felt so happy. This nightmare is behind me. Everybody that overcomes a nightmare feels happy. I go home. We pick up a few sandwiches on the way home. We eat. We laugh about it. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I go to sleep, thinking that the worst is behind me, not realizing that the worst is ahead of me. I wake up 45 minutes later with worse pain than I originally had in the hospital, but only this time it doesn't stop for 62 days. For 62 days, my body continues to be in pain 24 hours a day, with no break other than the 15 minutes that I would get a break because I burned my body by going into boiling water. You know the type of water that you boil tea in? You make tea? That's what I would be in. And why? Because that's what I would have to do to numb my entire body with different pain. Once you have different, you know, there's two types of pain. Two types of pain. So you have a headache, and you have like something that's much worse than that. So I preferred the headache. And this would give me about 15 minutes of peace. After that 15 minutes, I would immediately pass out. 15 minutes later, I would wake up with massive pain again, as if I just had the surgery all over again. And little by little, this led me to not be able to sleep for those 2 months, which meant that my body started failing. The urine turned to blood. The eyes turned to blood. The holes that were supposed to contain things started doing the opposite. And little by little, the doctor says, he's dying. We just don't know why. We have no idea why. Went to different doctors, NYU, and all types of fancy schmancy names. No one understood what This had to do with my surgery. After those 2 months, the body started calming down to the point where 20 painkillers were enough for the day. During those 2 months, 100 weren't enough. But now 20 painkillers were enough. I would take them 2 at a time just to numb the pain for a couple of hours, and then every couple of hours I'd take another couple of painkillers in order to get back to life. Went back to life, somewhat. 9 months later, I feel a pain in my leg. The next day I'm in the emergency room. They tell me that I have an internal infection called an abscess that's in between 2 muscles, that's at a point of exploding, that if it explodes and I don't do something about it immediately, it would go into my blood system and I would die within an hour. We have an emergency surgery, but the surgery for this type of thing is much worse than the first surgery. Why? This one, they actually get you to stay in the hospital because you have to be tied to the morphine 24 hours a day. You can't be without morphine. They give you a little button that every opportunity you get, you press it, because the pain is simply impossible. It's impossible, it's intolerable. So they just give you a little button and you feel like you have like a atomic bomb, but for yourself. You're hoping the thing blows you up because you can't handle the pain. But once the pain goes away for the next half hour, hour or so, you're happy anyway. And this goes on for the next few weeks. After a few weeks of this adventure, go back home, go back to life, try to go back to the office. 6 months later, another pain, another abscess, another infection, back in the hospital, emergency surgery, another hospital visit for another couple of weeks. 3 months later, another surgery, another abscess, another nightmare. And this is not in the same area. It keeps happening in different parts of the body, which is the problem. Why? You can't diagnose a problem, you have no idea why it's happening. Usually if you have a recurring problem, that means there's some deep-rooted issue. Meaning, okay, so let's say, for example, somebody has something on their arm, and they have a surgery, they fix it, whatever it is, they have some growth, and it comes back, they say, oh, that means in the previous surgery, we didn't take it out. We didn't take out the whole thing, we left something behind, so they have another surgery. Now if it comes back again, it's like, oh, there's something wrong here. We can't mess up over and over again, they have another surgery. But if it keeps going back, that means that the problem is somewhere else. Rabbi Yaron Reuven said that one time he went to a doctor and he told him, listen, I have a little bit of pain from this infection that I have. He says, let me see your infection. And he showed him a red mark on his arm. He says, okay, take off all your clothes, I need to check you. He goes, no, I just have this infection. He goes, take off all your clothes, I need to check your whole body. Strange. He checks the whole thing. After he checks, he goes, oh, you're fine. What do you mean I'm fine? You just gave me a heart attack, told me to check my whole body. I said, yeah, I had to check your whole body. Because why? He says, because that black dot, it either means you have a very serious condition, or it just means you have a small infection. Small infection, go to the secretary, she'll give you a prescription, get some antibiotics, in 2 days it's gone. Serious problem, that problem there's no cure for. So I had to check the whole body to see if there's other black dots like this, and to check your heart to see if it's connected to the heart. It's not, it's just a small superficial infection, just get some antibiotics, you're good. Sometimes a person can have a small little mark, a small little thing, a small little issue, and he doesn't take care of it, and it becomes a bigger problem. Same thing with our life. Sometimes there's a small issue with the marriage. The wife feels like you're not paying attention to her. All you have to do is pay a little attention to her. All you have to do is take a break on Shabbat, stop thinking about business, stop thinking about everything else, put the phone down, put this down, and just pay attention to her, just on Shabbat, and it's fine. But you don't. Why? You're busy with the guys, you're busy with this, you're busy with that. So now, the problem grows. The problem grows now, she not only doesn't feel like you're paying attention to her, now she feels like you don't even love her. Now, here's the problem. See, a guy doesn't necessarily need to feel loved all the time. He doesn't have that need, that desire. He just needs to feel loved sometimes. Just enough time that when he needs it, he wants to know somebody's there. A woman needs it all the time. She needs to know that she's loved. You don't necessarily need to say it every 5 seconds, but she needs to know in the back of her mind, my husband loves me. Why? Because the minute she feels the husband doesn't love her, there's no purpose to being married anymore. There's no point. If he doesn't love me, what's the point? It started with not paying attention, but now it grows that, oh, not only is he not paying attention, he doesn't pay attention to me because he doesn't love me. If he doesn't love me, I have to find somebody that does. Why do you think there's so many people cheating? Why do you think people are so many cheating? Guys, sometimes they cheat because of desire, very rarely because they're looking for love. Usually it's because of desire. Women, on the other hand, 90% of the time they cheat because they're looking for love, not because of desire. They don't have the same desires as men. They have them, but not the same thing as men. They're looking for love. Why? Because at home they didn't get it. Husband's too busy playing cards with his friends. Husband's too busy, going to the game, watching the Super Bowl or some other ball. He's watching everything else except his wife. So what? So she's like, oh, you're watching this. I'm looking for a guy that's watching me. It started with a small problem, a small little mark, a little scratch. But now it grew to a potential cancer. And sometimes that cancer is incurable. So the problem with my issues was that my problem was incurable simply because they didn't know what the problem was. It kept reappearing at different parts of the body. They saw no connection. They thought it was a fistula, which meant that all of them are connected. They checked it 1.5 million times, which is a very, very fun thing to do for them. And they never found it. They never found any connection. My life continues to get worse because I'm in pain all the time. And now, as you noticed, the time gets shorter between surgeries to the point where it gets to a point where I'm having a surgery of some kind every month. And then I'm starting to go to different doctors. I went to over 50 different doctors of all kinds. The best ones, the worst ones. And I send my files to the best doctors in the world at the Mayo Clinic, at Cleveland Clinic, every clinic you want. The real ones, the fake ones in different countries. I started taking all types of things, steroids like the athletes take, HGH, which is $1,500 a shot. Much more affordable when you have the money, much less affordable when you don't have the money. Started taking steroids. All they did is ruin my body even worse. And I'm constantly looking to cure this disease. Every doctor gives me a little bit of hope within the first few minutes, and as soon as he reads my file, which continues to grow, eventually gets to a point of being 3 feet. I get to a point where the doctor within a few minutes tells me he can't help me, and some of them reject me. They don't even want to see me. They simply don't want to see, no, I can't help somebody like you. Can't help, this is too much. I have no idea what's wrong with you. I'm telling you, people that were in the business for 25, 30 years, their job was to cure people. Simply don't want to talk to you. Why? Because you're hurting their ego. Until now, they felt they were able to cure everything, until they saw you. This continues for the next 7 years. Life becomes a disaster. Business goes into the tubes. The market crashes at the same time. Every deal that I did that used to turn from nothing into something is now turning from something back into nothing. The people that I groomed to become power brokers some of them became very successful, but they just decided to take that success elsewhere. And instead of helping, they stole as much as they could possibly get, because when the lion on top is wounded, that's the opportunity to take control. Everything starts to turn upside down. The customers that were very friendly to me says, listen, we can be friends, but business we can't do anymore. Why? You're not in the office. You're in a hospital constantly. You can't answer the phone. You can't do business. The deals are going bad. We're losing money. I used to be able to do $100 million deals. $100 million deals, meaning I make a few phone calls. Okay, at the end of those few phone calls, okay, buy $100 million of Nextel. Buy $100 million of Ivanhoe Mines. Buy $100 million worth of Sirius Satellite. Buy $100 million worth of whatever you want, and a few at a time. Did a few $1 billion worth of transactions. Big money. Now I'm fighting for life. Now I'm hoping that maybe I can get just a few $1 million. I can just pay the bills. The money that I had invested, my own money, I was my own biggest client. I'm losing money even faster than my own clients. So now, as my world turns upside down, I don't feel as great as I used to feel. But I'm still ambitious, and I'm still fighting, because that's me. I'm a fighter. You don't give up. But after you deal with pain 24 hours a day, and the health that you thought you had is taken away from you, and then the money that you thought you had is taken away from you, and all you really have is problems, and all the people that you thought were friendly are not really so friendly, you start losing your point of living. And I started to do a accounting of what I actually had. And this is what I had. I had my wife, which was the most wonderful, extraordinary person on earth. Every day she gave me a reason to live. Why? She made it seem like the cure is around the corner and the purpose is there. You just haven't found it yet. And despite the fact that she wasn't Jewish, she wanted me to become religious. She wanted me to become a religious Jew. She wanted me to, on holiday, she would tell me, listen, I think you should stay home for Pesach. You shouldn't go to work. I'll work. I'll do whatever you need to do. You sit home. I bought you a Tanakh. She bought me a Tanakh. She said, read it. I said, why? She said, oh, it's your history. It's HaShem. It's God. Read about him. Maybe it's going to give you a solution to these problems. I said, you realize I'm Jewish? Yeah. Perfect. Keep mitzvot. Keep your Torah. She bought me my first Tanakh. I found this a little unusual. So I stayed home for Pesach and I read the Tanakh that she bought me. It's very interesting. But it didn't change anything. Why? Because when you first learn Torah, you learn it superficially, which means that it's not sweet like it is after you've learned it for a while. You learn it like you learned a book. And it's interesting and maybe a little bit mentally stimulating, but you still don't understand 90% of what it says. So you don't really get the point of why does anybody else in the world sit here and look at this book or other books like it, Gemara, the Mishnah, Shulchan Aruch, the Zohar Kadosh, all of our holy books, all of our oral Torah. How could you sit there for 15 hours looking at this book? You can't even imagine yourself that way. Why? Because you looked at the book. I read a lot of books in my life before I doing tshuva. Lots of books. I had a huge library of books that I read. Secular books. All types of topics. Philosophical books, medical books, all scientific books. Read lots of stuff. This was just another book. Why? Because I was reading it superficially without really understanding what's going on. So I read it. It's interesting, but I'm not changing my life because HaShem created Adam and the snake enticed him to sin, and eventually HaShem gets really, really annoyed and he destroys the whole world, the generation of Noach. Okay, nice people. Listen, good for you, Noach, that you survived. What does that have to do with me? Moshe Rabbeinu sounds like a superhero to me. It's Baruch Hashem. Wow, I wish I was like him. I wish I knew him. But what does that have to do with me? You read it the first time, you have no idea okay, it's great. Now what? So I read it a little bit. Nothing changed. But as the health continued to deteriorate, I started losing my purpose. Because now my dream of becoming this deal maker, this powerful person that can do a lot of good things, that can donate even more money than I was already donating and so on, that became more and more of a imaginary dream, not a real dream. Why? Because what I've accumulated until this point is now running out the window faster than it came in. And my ability to continue doing more became impossible. Why? Because I wasn't able to work. You know, I'd work for a couple of months, then go to the hospital. I'd work for a couple of months, then go to the hospital. I'd work for a couple of months, then go to the hospital. Constantly. It was just constantly in doctors. Every week I was a doctor. At one point I was in doctors every week. I became a part of a study. They wanted to do experiments on my body. I became part of a study. They wanted to figure out, like, oh, listen, at least maybe you could donate your body to science. And that's what I did. They started doing experiments on me. I said, listen, the regular doctors can't figure it out. Maybe the experiment will figure it out. I had a toothache one time, and the guy, I went to the dentist, and he tried to give me Novocaine, and it didn't work. So he gave me more, and it didn't work. And he thought he kept missing the nerve, and he wasn't missing the nerve. It just didn't work. Eventually, the doctor said, listen, I think you should donate your skull to science. At least it can help somebody. Your body doesn't work. Eventually it works, but some unusual amount sometimes. And sometimes it works in a small amount. Like, it's not like it just has a high tolerance. Sometimes it's 1 grain of sugar could change the whole body. Other times a gallon of sugar won't do anything. Very strange. My mom found out she has the same problem. She had a surgery on her teeth to replace her teeth, but she found out a little bit too late that it's almost impossible to numb her face. So she felt every single pin, every single thing that happened already after the fact. Shem Rachem. My brother also has a little bit. So I think we're a little bit aliens. Say, what are you? Sephardic, Ashkenazi? No, alien. We're a new tradition. So now, Rabotai, we have a interesting journey. But this journey, I'm thinking, maybe I'm going to end this journey. I can't take it anymore. There's no point to life. So I start thinking, you know what? There's no answers. There's no point. And I got to a point where I became literally suicidal. I didn't want to die, but there's no cure. That's when Hashem decided that I've reached my end. Hashem promised us that He's never going to give us a test we can't handle, which means that as soon as we get to a point where we're at a breaking point, that's when Hashem gets involved. He doesn't want us to break, but sometimes it's necessary for us to break in order for us to look up. In order for us to look up. Because our ego is always in the way. We always think that we're able to solve our own problems. You have financial problems, you figure I'll get 2 jobs instead of 1 job. 1 job doesn't pay the bills, so I'll work 2 jobs to pay the bills. You look for a wife, you figure that, you know what, I can't find a wife. So you know what, maybe I'll just date 3 girls at a time. One of them must be right. So you start dating, you have 3 different lives. And every one of these girls think you're the husband. She thinks, oh, I'm going to marry him. He's Joey. Joey's my best. He's my buddy. He's my best. He's my husband. He's my future husband. Why? Because he buys her presents every week. She doesn't realize he also buys the other girl presents every week and the other girl presents every week. Because he figures that one of them is going to be the one. He wants to help God, give him a zivuk. So he figures, Hashem, I'm giving you 3 choices. Anyone you want. So we limit Hashem. Limit Hashem, and therefore we make stupid choices by overdoing it. People call it ishtadlut. It's not ishtadlut. Ishtadlut means you made the minimum amount of effort that's required just to make it look realistic. What we do is an obsession to help Hashem do His job. And sometimes we don't believe that Hashem is going to provide us parnasah to an extent that some people are not willing to have more kids until they have more money. So you have many people, every week I get calls like this. Every week I get messages like this. Oh, my wife doesn't want to have any more kids. Why not? Because I don't make enough money. I'm only making $70,000 a year. I'm only making $50,000 a year. I'm only making $100,000 a year. I'm only making whatever I'm making. And it's not enough. It's barely enough to pay for our 2 or 3 kids that we have. And a dog. So we figured that if we're going to get another kid, we probably have to get rid of the dog. But we like the dog. It's like another son to us. So she figured that until I get my raise, that's when we'll have a kid. So they decided to keep the dog and not the kid. Why? Because they figure that I have to have money before I do things. They don't realize that each kid comes with parnasah. And the Torah tells us that if a person simply looks at the first book of the Torah, looks at Sefer Bereshit, he sees that Hashem commanded us to have children. Commanded us to try to have children. It's the first commandment. It's the first thing that Hashem told Adam HaRishon. Purbu. Now, which means that this is in the interest of Hashem. Hashem wants us to multiply. Hashem wants us to bring children to the world. He doesn't want us to waste seed. He doesn't want us to be by ourselves for the whole life. He wants us to bring children to the world. More people, do more mitzvot, honor Him more, serve Him more, fulfill the purpose of the world. But we figured, listen, yeah, I know that's what God wants, but I don't have the money. So I figured that when He gives me the money, I'll do what He wants. Meaning that if a person thinks about it, in essence, what are they saying? They're saying that Hashem wants you to have kids, but He's going to let them starve to death. He told you to do something, but He didn't give you the ability to do it. He wants you to go, build a family, but you don't have the tools to do it, which is complete nonsense. This makes God into an evil God, if you really think about it. So, when a person has ishtadlut, when he's trying to make effort to do certain things, he has to know that there's a certain amount that he's responsible for, there's a certain amount that Hashem is responsible for. The more emunah and bitachon that you have, the less you do. The less emunah and bitachon that you have, the more you do. If your emunah and bitachon is at 10%, you're going to work 90%. If your emunah and bitachon is at 90%, you only have to work 10%. But with the rest of the time, obviously doing different things. You're learning and so on. So we figured that we tried everything possible and it wasn't working. Hashem promised that as soon as I break, as soon as a person breaks and gets to that limit, he's going to show himself in different ways. He showed himself in many different ways, but I was ignoring him. One day I get a phone call from my mom and she tells me, please talk to him. And I say, who? He says, talk to Ephraim. I said, who is this Ephraim? He says, it's your cousin. I said, why do I need to talk to him and why did he make you cry? Because she was crying on the phone. He says, just talk to him, please, he can help you. I said, if it's going to stop you from crying, just have him call me, I'll talk to whoever you want. Now, Ephraim called me, and I didn't even know who he was, but I knew he was my cousin from Israel that I never met. And immediately when we started talking, we hit it off. He started telling me some interesting stories about Yehuda and Tamar, and he read the Torah in a different way than I did years ago. He read it with commentary. I read it literally. I read the Torah, it said, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Hashem created the world, the heaven and the earth. That's what I read. He had a different. Why? He had commentary. He told me what does that actually mean, behind the scenes. So I read Yehuda, and there was a Yehuda, and there's a Tamar, someone, there's a story. But then he started telling me the commentary by the sages of why this happened and why that happened. And I started realizing, wow, there's more than that meets the eye. There's a lot more in the Torah than I ever imagined. And I started realizing that he has the answers that I'm looking for my whole life. So I started asking him questions. We had a conversation for 1 hour and 40 minutes. And he started giving me some answers. I ran to my wife after the call. I told her, I found him. She said, who? I said, I found the guy that has the answers. She said, who is it? I said, it's Ephraim. She goes, who's Ephraim? I said, it's my cousin. She goes, keep talking to him. I said, I don't know his phone number. She goes, how could you not get it? I said, I don't know. He called me. So now we're waiting the whole week. We're just hoping, he's going to call again. The next week, Thursday, 4 o'clock, he calls again. I'm as excited as can be. Why? I get to ask questions. Where's there dinosaurs in the Torah? Are there aliens? What's the point of life? Why am I sick? Why am I not healthy? Why is this? Why is that? And so on and so forth. Where's the stock market going? Maybe he knows that too. You figure he knows all these other questions. Might as well. And the best part about asking him questions is that he's not giving you his opinion. He's giving you Chazal's opinion. He's giving you God's opinion. And he's telling you exactly where you could find it yourself. You have a question? Sure. Somebody asked this question. Who? He tells you who asked this question. Great, so what did he ask? What did he answer? He says, look at this book, this page. I don't have the book. Okay, so I'll tell you. He doesn't make you feel bad. He goes, oh, you don't have the book? Okay, I'll tell you what it says in the book. And he gives you the page number. Just in case you remember, you're going to look for it later on, as if you know what to do. As if somebody gave you the book, you even know where to go. Why? Because, by the way, in Torah, they don't have numbers. They have letters. So he started telling me, in page Shin Gimel, it says, I said, who? Page who? Shin Gimel. I said, yeah, you said letters. Isn't that page supposed to be a number? You're saying letters. He goes, yeah, it's a Gematria. And Shin stands for 300, and Gimel stands for 3. So it's page 303. Oh, okay, so he said, so Shin Gimel Amud Bet. I said, wait, hold on a second. You just said Shin Gimel. What's this Amud Bet? Where does this Bet come from? He goes, oh, the page is in Judaism and our Torah, it's not the same thing like secular books, where every page is just a number. Each page is a real page, meaning back and forth. The front is A, is Aleph, the back is Bet. So it's Shin Gimel Bet means 303, backside. So you need to be a scientist just to figure out the pages. You want me to know all the stuff? So now he starts telling me Shin Gimel, Shin this, Taf this, Resh Gimel this, Resh, he starts talking in code. But every time I realized very quickly, I have no idea what I'm doing. all of what I thought I knew, immediately I realized I know nothing. Now, in comparison to everybody else that I know, I'm Mr. Genius. In comparison to him, I'm a moron. The good news is, he doesn't see it that way. He thinks we're equal. He thinks we're equal. He's like, oh yeah, remember in Gemara, Masechet Shabbat? I said, no, what's Gemara? Oh no, Gemara, Shabbat, page this, and he makes you feel good about it. He knows I don't know, but he doesn't make you think that he knows he doesn't know. He makes you feel good about yourself. So I realized this is a special person. I don't know anything. So I could be one of two things. I could be an egotistical moron and pretend like I know and just say yes, yes, sure, of course, yeah. Who doesn't know? Who doesn't know this? Noach, of course Noach should have prayed more for the people. Well, Avraham Tzaddik, of course, Avraham. You pretend like you know. Or you can go back to being a kindergarten child with no shame whatsoever to ask every single question 1,000,000 times until you get an answer that you understand. And until this day, years later, this is how we learn. If I don't understand, I ask the question again. He says another explanation. I don't understand, I ask the question again. In a different way, to explain what I don't understand. And he explains it again in a different way. Baruch Hashem, I'm not like the Gemara. There was a student that had to ask every question 400 times. Baruch Hashem, not 400 times. Most things I understand first time out. But sometimes it takes a few times. This is one of the things that was a secret to learning. Killing your ego. All that you know is meaningless. You have to ask questions in order to get knowledge. Most people don't have that. Most people simply want to pretend like they know. And sometimes I meet people and I start talking to them and they start nodding the whole time. Yeah, I know. So that conversation usually ends very quickly. Why? If they know everything, what's the point of the conversation? If you want to learn Torah, immediately you have to act like a baby. You don't know anything. Even if you heard it before. By the way, you should know, for ethical reasons, our sages teach us that even if somebody tells you a story that you heard, you shouldn't interrupt them and tell them, I know the story. Let them finish the story and pretend like it's the first time you ever heard it. For two reasons. Number one, them teaching you the story is helping them. So why are you going to ruin it for them? If they figure that maybe you never heard the story, they prepared the story, they finally give you the story, you tell them, no, I heard it after 3 words, the guy's like, everybody knows everything I know, so I might as well stop teaching. The second reason is, you know your version of the story. Maybe there's something that he's going to tell you that you never heard before. So don't assume you know the whole story back and forth like you think you do. Maybe there's something you don't know. There's another facet to the story that you never heard before that he's going to tell you now. So you should never ever interrupt anyone giving you Dvar Torah. Other things you can. If somebody wants to give you the menu again after you read it, you don't have to listen to the whole menu all over again. Talking about Dvar Torah. So I realized very quickly I didn't really know very much. And I was going to ask every question that I can, anything I didn't understand, literally from what does this word mean? Even though I was born in Israel, I only got a 4th grade education. We left Israel when I was in 4th grade. So it's been a long time. I didn't go to yeshiva. I didn't study Sifrei Kodesh. In so many words, I didn't speak Hebrew for 25 years. So even the 4th grade education that I had was not really so, I didn't remember all of it. So a lot of times you would say certain words and say, what does that mean? What does this word mean? Like I was learning Hebrew all over again. And then I started looking at the Siddur and I said, I have no idea what I'm saying. I could make the sounds like 90% of people, but I have no idea what I'm saying. So he bought me a nice Siddur that has something called translation. So I would read the Siddur, make the sounds in Hebrew, but the translation was right under the words. So I would know exactly what does this word mean. And as I would pray, I would learn also Hebrew. Again, all over again. Now, since I had some basic knowledge, this helped. But nonetheless, in the beginning, it was a nightmare. Because he had a mission. I just didn't know it. His mission was to teach me Hebrew as if I never left Israel. So you'd say, okay, no, come on, so read what it says in a pasuk. I said, you read it. He goes, no, come on, you have it. You have it in front of you. So I would open the book, I would open a Tanakh, I would open a Chumash, and I would start reading like I'm in first grade. And he would have all the patience in the world to wait for me to finish the sentence, and I feel as embarrassed as can be. Why? I'm not 12 years old. And I'm reading like I am, though. Or 6 years old. But he has the patience, and he's waiting, and little by little I'm thinking, why do you have me read? It's embarrassing for me. He goes, no, continue reading. Little by little, I wasn't reading that way anymore. The point is, Rabotai, is that since I saw that this special person had the answers I needed, I didn't mind dealing with a little bit of embarrassment. I didn't mind dealing with a little bit of toil. I didn't mind shutting down my office every Thursday at 4 o'clock because Rabbi Ephraim is calling. And as soon as Rabbi Ephraim calls, the world might as well blow up. It doesn't make a difference to me. My wife becomes my bouncer. She blocks the door. No one's allowed to come in. She goes, yeah, but we're looking for something. I said, look somewhere else. He's studying with Rabbi Ephraim. How long is it going to be? An hour, 2 hours? She goes, maybe 7 hours. They start looking at it. What do you mean 7 hours? What do they do for 7 hours? Says, they learn Torah. He learns Torah. Yaron's learning Torah. See, we're talking about the same person? Wall Street Yaron is learning Torah 7 hours? Wall Street Yaron is learning Torah for 7 hours. After doing this for a little while, I started keeping mitzvot. And started realizing that I have a problem in my life. The fact that my wife is not Jewish. But again, you can't stop making somebody believe something. So I had to find out, what's the truth? Is Christianity true? Is Judaism the truth? Which meant that I had to study both subjects now. Very quickly I realized that Christianity is complete nonsense. I honestly don't understand how 2 billion people believe this shtuyot. But this was easy for me to figure out. Why? It wasn't spoon-fed to me for 30 years. For me, I was looking from the outside. From the outside, you could always see the problems. If you're the one that's fixing the house, it's very hard for you to see that there's like a little scratch over there and a tiny one over there and the light bulb is missing over there. Why? Because you're close to it, so you're not going to pay attention to the small details. But one of your friends comes for the first time and he sees all the chesronot, all of the missing. He goes, by the way, you know there's a scratch over there, right? And a light bulb, and all of a sudden he sees everything clear. It's very annoying, by the way. But aside from that, it's like, how did you see all that? I'm here the whole week. I didn't see the light bulbs missing. He goes, I'm an expert. It's not because he's an expert. It's because he's coming from a different perspective. He's coming from a different perspective. So, I came from a different perspective. I came from the outside. From the outside, it's very, very clear to me to see that it's a man-made religion full of mistakes, full of complete nonsense, contradictions, and so on. But still, you can't make somebody else just agree with you. They have to see it. Just because you see it doesn't mean that they're going to see it. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make when they do tshuva. They think that just because they got the spark in their head and they see that HaShem is real and no one can convince them otherwise, that doesn't mean that their wife or husband sees the same thing. Even if you show them the same paper. Here, honey, look, it says over here this. Thank you. Doesn't change anything for me. Why? Because what's going to spark for you, what's going to make you spark, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make them spark either. And that's when people ask me, well, what do I do to get my spouse or my children or somebody to jump on a bandwagon? What can I teach them? I said, teach them to learn every day. Teach them a shiur every day. Give them a shiur. Give them a 5-minute clip, a 10-minute clip. You give them a 3-hour clip, they're not going to watch it. Give them a 5-minute clip. Give them a 10-minute Torah clip. And don't do it yourself. Have somebody else do it. Give the rabbi the job to do it. Don't do it yourself. Why? Because you, most likely, they're not going to accept your teachings because you're new at it. So they don't really respect it from you. But if they learn it from somebody else, it's much more likely to work. Because an outside perspective. So send them a clip or video of this shiur that's 5 minutes out of it that motivated you. And you send it to them every day. 5 minutes from this rabbi, 5 minutes from that rabbi. See what works. Little by little, they're going to want more. Why? Because once you feed them something every day, eventually they're going to press click. Eventually they're going to start liking it, and eventually they're going to want more. That's the only way. If you try to just bet everything only on one thing, you're taking a very big risk. And the reason why is because if it doesn't work, and you bet everything on it, not only are they going to lose hope that they're hopeless, you're going to lose hope that they're hopeless, and that could lead to divorce. So many times when one person did tshuva, and they think that the same thing that caused them to do tshuva is going to cause their spouse to do tshuva or their kids to do tshuva, they're mistaken. Usually it's going to be something else. So since you don't know what that something else is, give them a little bit of everything. Give them a little bit of Torah and science. Give them a little bit of Musar. Give them a little bit of Parashat Shavua. Have somebody guide you of what to send them. And every day give them a little bit. Get them used to receiving Torah every day and hope that they actually press play or read a little bit a few times a week. That's what you should pray for every day. So as I was learning more and more, I started teaching my wife more and more. She liked everything I was learning. I liked everything I was learning. Everything was great. The only problem was that we were both born to different religions. Now, and we were both under the belief that if you're born this way, you're born this way. I asked my rabbi, he goes, no, there's many people that are considered some of the most righteous people in history that started as goyim. Onkelos agel. Every chumash that has commentary depends on Onkelos. Why? He's the original commentary, before Rashi. Onkelos was next in line to become the Caesar. He was next in line to become the Caesar, and he found the emet. He found the Torah. He realized it's complete. Everything that he learned up to that point is complete nonsense. The Torah is emet. These slaves, these poor Jewish people, they have the truth. I want to join them. But it's a big decision. So what did he do? The Gemara in Masechet Gitin says that Onkelos did a seance. And he brought 3. In those days, it's very easy actually to do a seance today. But it's not allowed, by the way. He did a seance, and he brought 3 neshamot. He brought his uncle, Titus. He brought, or great-great-uncle, Titus. He brought Bilam. And he brought Jesus. What we also call J.C. Penney. Now, he brought all 3 of them, and he asked them, where are you? They say we're in a different world. Because what does it look like in this world? Who's the leader over there? Who are the important ones there? He says, Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is the most important here. He says, but here they're not important. He goes, yeah, the world is upside down. It's Alma de Shika. This world that you're living in, it's a world of lies. Complete nonsense. The real world, Am Yisrael is the leaders. He says, well, what about you? What happened to you? And they tell them all. Each one tells them about the punishment that they're in. Titus, because he desecrated the Beit HaMikdash, and he thought that HaShem cannot beat him, he told people, listen, when I die, take my ashes and split them all over the ocean. All over the ocean. So HaShem, if he ever wants to take revenge against me, he can't, because I'm all over the place. So Titus said to him, he goes, yo, I was wrong. Why? Because now Hashem, every day, he has malachim collect all of the dust of my ashes from all over the sea, put me back together, and then burn me all over again, and split me all over again. And then do it all over again, over and over again. That's my punishment. Then he asks Bilam, who's the leaders over there? He says, Am Yisrael is the leaders. He says, so should I convert? He says, no, it's too hard for you. You come from royalty. Same thing Titus told him. You come from royalty. You can't hang. Can't hang with the Jews. They're too much. They have a Torah, too many laws. It's too much. Why don't you just live as a goy, kill a bunch of Jews, because at least you'll enjoy one world. And then after that, when you come to the next world, you'll join us and suffer. He says, well, where are you? He tells them, no, me, they're burning me in a different way. Shem HaShem, because his wife was a donkey, they are burning him in all the seed that he wasted. And then he asks Jesus, where are you? J.C. Penney. No, he's not in J.C. Penney. He actually went to Macy's. No. He says to him, no, the leaders are Am Yisrael, and you should convert. You should convert. He says, where are you? He goes, oh, me, they're burning me in feces. Because why are they doing this to you? You told me to convert. Obviously, you were born a Jew, so how come they burn you over there? He says, because I went against the Torah. I went against the rabbis. When you go against the rabbis, it's like going against the Torah itself. It's like going against Hashem. My punishment is eternally to be in a tzoar tachat. So Onkel Osagir got musar from neshamot. And he decided to convert and give up becoming the next Caesar, give up becoming the next king. Another very famous convert is from the family of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, that's always all over the Gemara, he comes from converts. Rabbi Meir Baranes, both of them lived in a generation of the Tanaim. But even before them, there was the Zugot. Zugot is several generations before them. There was Shmaya and Avtalyon. Shmaya and Avtalyon were the heads of Am Yisrael. One was the head as the prince, the Nasi, and one was the head of the Sanhedrin. Both of them were converts themselves. And they were the rabbis of Hillel. Hillel is a kin. So you see that many, many important people throughout our Torah were converts. And then we found out there's actually parasha in the Torah. Parashat Yitro, Parashat Matan Torah. The parasha that we get the Torah is named after a convert by the name of Yitro. One of the most important people that ever lived in history is Yitro. And the Torah, which is the climax of the entire Torah, is not called Parashat Matan Torah. It's called Parashat Yitro. Why? Because we all have musar to learn from Yitro. What musar? Vayishma Yitro. Yitro didn't need too much convincing. His whole life he worshipped different idols, not because he was some crazy person. He was constantly looking for the truth. As soon as he saw one idol was fake, he left it, threw it in the garbage, didn't try even a second time. Started something else. Didn't work out, left it, threw it in the garbage, started something else. Over and over and over again. As soon as he heard about Am Yisrael and what HaShem did for them, that was enough. That was enough for him to leave his job, leave everything, and go to Mount Sinai and become a Jew. Alvay Aleinu to simply listen to one shiur and become a real Jew. That's what we're supposed to hear. We're supposed to listen to Torah. One time you get the truth. Somebody tells you, Halacha is this. Don't ask too many questions. Tamim tiyem Hashem. So now, Yitro is one of the most critical people that ever lived. Another one is the Mashiach. Mashiach hasn't come yet, but he's coming soon. Mashiach comes from a convert. Ruth the Moabiyah, Ruth the Moabite. Also a convert. So we learned this. We said, so conversion is possible. But again, what do we do with, what's the process of conversion? So we thought maybe we'll do conversion online. We're busy people. We have a business. We have this. So we looked at conversions online. You say, Rabbi Stacy Jones. I said, Rabbi Stacy? Sounds kind of weird. It's Rabbi Stacy. I never knew that a rabbi is a woman. Rabbi Stacy does conversions online. All you have to do is send $150 and you're converted. I said, this sounds more like a dog certificate. Dog certificates, you don't have to even show the dog. You just ask for the certificate, they send you a certificate in the mail. This conversion, reform conversion, same thing. Stacy can convert you online. You don't even have to know you. So we realized this is nonsense. So okay, so what do we got to do? We got to convert other ways. So we start making some phone calls. We asked Rabbi Ephraim. He actually introduces us to Rabbi Daniel Asol, which is a famous counter-missionary rabbi who used to be a missionary actually. We talked to him and he tells us, no, listen, if you are in New York, talk to this Bedin in New York. They'll help you out. Tell them I gave you the information and they'll help you. So we got the information. We called the Bedin. We met with the Bedin. They told us all the different things that we need to study, all the different things that we need to do. We went back to Rabbi Ephraim. We said, we need to know all of this stuff. He said, okay, let's start studying for this. Now, we've already been studying with Rabbi Ephraim for a couple of years now. So now we're studying. And again, even before all of this happened, we had to make sure that this is all going to go through. Problem is that part of the requirement is that you have to say that you don't believe in anything you believed in before. That's the problem. Why? I didn't have a pre-existing belief. My pre-existing belief was nonsense. My pre-existing belief was that pretty much that God is there, He runs the world, but when it comes to me, I can just do whatever I want because I'm a nice person. I believe God created the world, but maybe He went on vacation. Maybe he has other problems to deal with. So for me, it was relatively easy. For my wife, it was very different. Why? Because she was spoon-fed some nonsense her whole life. And you can't just undo it. So we had to learn about Christianity to figure out if there's mistakes, if there's some way to disprove it, prove it, whatever it was. At some point, we found a debate by Rabbi Tovia Singer. I watched a bunch of them. I loved them. I learned a lot from them. But when I brought them to my wife, she says that she couldn't connect to it. And even though somebody could be a fantastic speaker and very knowledgeable, it doesn't mean that you'll connect to them. Sometimes your neshama requires something else. Some people love the things that I say, and some people can't stand it. Doesn't mean that what I say is wrong, it just simply means that some people just don't connect to it. Now, I had to look for somebody else. We asked Rabbi Ephraim a bunch of questions. He gave us the answers, but it was still insufficient. We needed more. Eventually, I came across Rabbi Mizrahi. Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi had a debate with a Christian professor. I watched it. I was enamored. It was unbelievable. I brought this to my wife. She didn't connect to it. She didn't connect to it. This didn't work. So now I'm running out of options. By the way, I'm still sick. The business is still going downhill, but at this point, it doesn't really matter anymore. Why? I have a new mission in life. New mission is to save her neshama. Why? Because at this point, I realized that Christianity is not a second best. Christianity is outright fake idolatry. It's just idolatry. So at this point, I know it's idolatry, but she doesn't. She still believes in something. It's like every Christian, by the way, believes in a different religion. No two Christians have the same belief. So she had like her own version of Christianity. She believed that maybe this Jesus guy was like a nice person. That's it. She didn't believe he was God. She didn't believe he was the Son of God. She never believed that stuff. She didn't believe in the whole New Testament. She just believed he was like a nice person. But if you went against him and you don't believe in him, then you're doomed. Because that's what they teach you. So how do you undo it? So now you have to show that even this is nonsense. So by investigating enough about Christianity, I realized this very quickly, but I had to convince her. Now, I can't convince her because I'm not the vessel. The vessel has to be somebody else. Eventually, I find another video called Torah and Science by Rabbi Mizrahi again. We watched Torah and Science, the first part. Both of us are flabbergasted. It's unbelievable. New proofs that we never heard of. Scientific proofs of God. Both of us are amazed. Then we watch another part. We're both amazed again. But at this point, my wife says, listen, it's amazing. I know the Torah is true, but I still need a sign. I still need something that's like God telling me this is what he wants me to do. The next day, we watched the third part of this video, which was really part 2, and she gets her sign. What's her sign? We get to a verse in the book of Deuteronomy where Shem tells us that after we get to the end of the days, we're going to sin against him by going and worshiping other foreign gods, the god of stone and the god of wood. Now, stone obviously represents Mecca, where all the Muslims are. Wood represents the cross, where all the Christians pray to. So this sounds good, but maybe it's a coincidence. But through this Torah and Science video, which is in all those bags, for anybody that wants to take one of the bags, it's free. There's a bunch of CDs in it, and it has one of the videos in it, one of the DVDs, is a copy of Torah and Science. Now, here he shows us that not only is this verse very interesting and very similar to being a representation of modern day's biggest religions, but he also shows that Torah codes actually show that the name Jesus and the name Mecca both appear through Torah codes inside this verse. It's the only place in the entire Torah they appear, which is inside the verse that talks about them. So when a person looks at this with an unbiased eye, meaning he's not looking for his own answer, he's looking for an answer. He's not like one of these people that put the target on the, like Christians, what they do is they draw the target and then they draw the circle around it, wherever the target is. No. He is looking for the actual answer. If you're unbiased, this is as clear as day. For me it was, for her even more so. At that moment she says, I want everything. This was more than enough. I realized that Christianity is complete idolatry, it's complete nonsense. That's it. We have to learn everything and do everything. At that moment, the conversion process sped up drastically. And again, new mission in life, or the mission in life transformed again. Now, we're not only learning that we didn't just meet God, now we want to do what He said. So now they tell us, listen, once she converts, you know that you have to get married. You have to get married all over again. You have to have a chuppah and kiddushin. I said, okay, great. So could we have when? It says same day. Same day. So we have the same chuppah and kiddushin, same day. But throughout the story, there are constantly new miracles happening. And my health starts deteriorating and then improving, then deteriorating and then improving. We're constantly getting tested left and right. But we stay strong. Little by little, we overcome this. We finish conversion, finish the marriage, decide to go to Israel for a little while, go spend some time with Rabbi Ephraim. We have the Sheva Brachot there. Learn some more over there for a little while. Then decide to come back here, but with a plan to get out of here, get out of New York, start a new life somewhere else. But moving is not so easy. I still have the business going, even though the business has gone down by 99%. There's still something left. There was enough left that even 99% still didn't kill the whole thing. Still enough money that we still have at that point, maybe somewhere close to $1 million left of our own money and a little bit more of clients' money. So we're still okay, relatively speaking. I felt poor because there was so much more before that, but I wish I had it today. Anyway, we figured, okay, let's let things go. I continue to learn. Once in a while, people ask me questions. I answer the questions from what I learn. I don't really know very much, but whatever I learn, it happens to be what people ask me about. Hashem gives me knowledge, and what I learn is exactly what people want to know. And my rabbi tells me that, listen, you have to start spreading this information. You have to start teaching. I said, teaching who? He says, teaching people. I said, I don't know anything. He says, no, don't teach anything. Just teach what you know. Don't teach everything. Teach whatever you know. You learned something this week, teach that. So anytime I would go to Beit Knesset, they would tell me, listen, why don't you say something Sudah Shlishit? So I'd start talking Sudah Shlishit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I saw it's affecting people. They like it. They like the story. They like this. They like that. I said, Baruch Hashem, I liked it, but still, I never in my wildest dreams thought I was ever going to leave the Wall Street world and join this world. This wasn't even a joke. Eventually, we decided to leave New York, move to Florida. We originally lived in Boca Raton. And shortly after I moved, I decided to start a weekly shiur in my house. First shiur was with one person, me and Nissan, this guy named Nissan. I told Nissan, here's the deal. I'll tell you what God said, you do whatever you want. But at least somebody's going to tell you. I said, okay, no problem. So, first shiur we talk with this, he likes it, Baruch Hashem. Second shiur, we have 3 people. 2 people in front of me, 1 guy on the phone, because he couldn't make it. One of them was this guy named Danny, who became a rabbi, Nissan, and this other guy named Tomel. Tomel's on the phone. And then eventually he actually showed up to the shiur. So on the second shiur, I tell him, listen, by the way, there's an halakha in the Rambam, chidush. What chidush? It says Rambam in Ilchot Shabbat, the last halakha in chapter 30, says the following, that Aval המחלל שבת בפרהסיה, הרי הוא כעובד עבודת כוכבים ומזלות. That someone that violates Shabbat is considered 100% an idol worshiper. Now, if somebody is considered an idol worshiper, obviously you can't count him in minyan, meaning that if you go to Beit Knesset and there's only 10 people, that's a minyan, but one of them, he drives on Shabbat. You can't count him as one of the 10 for a minyan. Why? Because the halakha says that he's considered an idol worshiper. So Nissan looks at me funny. He goes, wait, what do you mean if he drives to shul? I said, if a guy drives to shul on Shabbat, that means he's violating Shabbat. And at that point, halakha calls him an idol worshiper. He says, I've been driving to shul for 25 years. Nobody ever told me this. He goes, are you sure? I said, yeah, it's also in Shulchan Aruch. He says, what's the Shulchan Aruch? What is it, a menu? He says, no, Shulchan Aruch is the halacha. It's all halachot. So there's a few other sources in Shulchan Aruch. You have it in Shulchan Aruch Even HaEzer Seder HaGet, Seif Tet. Says, הכל כשרים לכתוב גט, חוץ מחירש, שוטה וקטן, ועבד ועובדי כוכבים וישראל מומר, או מחלל שבת בפרהסיה. Says that anyone can write a get, a kosher get, except if they're deaf, or they're a drunk, or a crazy person, or they're a minor, or they're a slave, or they're an idol worshiper, or they're a heretic, or they are mechalel Shabbat. It says another place, Shulchan Aruch. It says, where else? It says, Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat, Alachot Aveda, Umetziah, Siman Resh Samech Vav, Seif Bet. It says, if somebody loses something, if a Jew loses something, you have to return it. If you have signed, you find a wallet, the wallet has an ID, you find it, you see an ID, you have to return this to the Jew. But then the halacha says something different. Halacha says, חייב להחזיר אבדת ישראל אפילו היה בעל האבדה רשע ואוכל נבלה לתיאבון. You have to return something that you lost that has the signs that you know who it belongs to a Jew, even if he's a rasha, even if he eats non-kosher food because he just feels like it. but אבל האוכל נבלה להכעיס, הרי הוא כאפיקוס מישראל והאפיקוסים והכותים וישראל המחלל שבת בפרהסיה, אסור להחזיר להם אבדה כעובד כוכבים. He says, but if he eats non-kosher just to make everybody angry, to make God angry, he is considered like an apikos, like a heretic. And heretics, or idol worshippers, or a mechalel Shabbat, are considered goyim, which you're not obligated to give them. It's not allowed to even return what they have. Why? Because their deen is like a goy. Their deen is like not a regular goy, a goy that's actually a idol worshipper. An idol worshipper, you're not allowed to return his stuff. A regular righteous goy, you should return his stuff because you can do kiddush Shem. But if he's an idol worshipper, you're not allowed to return his stuff if you found it. Another place, Shulchan Aruch, Orech Chaim, Halachot Shabbat, Siman Shin Pei Hei. Says the same thing. ישראל מומר לעבודת אלילים או לחלל שבתו בפרהסיה, אפילו אינו מחללו אלא באיסור דרבנן, הרי הוא כעקום. Says a Jew that's a heretic, to even to worship an idols, or to violate Shabbat, even if he's not violating the biblical sins, even if he's violating the rabbinical sins, but it's in public, people know that he's playing with his phone. Playing with a phone is a rabbinical sin. It's not a biblical sin. But he's violating the rabbinical sin. Everybody knows he is considered ke'akum. What's akum? Oved kochavim v'mazalot. He's like somebody that worships the stars, worships idols, and so on. And it says it in other places all over the Shulchan Aruch. The 7 places, I believe, in the Shulchan Aruch. There are countless places in the Gemara. It's all over the Rambam, it's all over the Zohar, it's 12 places in the Torah, Bichtav, it's all over the place. So Nisan just got a shock of his life. Why? Because Nisan has been driving to shul for 25 years. Clockwork. He goes every day to shul, he puts on tefillin, puts on tzitzit, puts on everything. On Shabbat, just the tzitzit, no tefillin. Since he lives a little bit far, he drives, it's only a 15-minute drive. Right on Shabbat. Nice parking lot right next to the shul. It's convenient. And everybody knows he drives. Why? Because he drives some of the people there with him. Some of the people he takes home, and so on and so forth. It's not like it's a secret. Everybody knows. The rabbi knows, the kehillah knows, everybody knows. Why? Because there's 200 other cars in the parking lot. Nisan's not the only driver in the shul that nobody knew. And he's not hiding. This was, in his eyes, 100% allowed. Now he got a shock of his life. He says, what do I do? I said, well, the first thing is stop driving. He goes, yeah, but how am I going to go to shul? I said, don't go to shul. What am I going to do? How am I going to pray? I said, pray at home. There's 10 commandments. One of the commandments is keep Shabbat. There's no commandment, go to shul. There's no commandment. You want to go to shul? Live closer. And he decides to keep Shabbat. This gave me a lot of motivation. Why? Because I see that this stuff that I don't really know very much, but what I know is actually helping other people. So it must be that other people also don't know. Little by little, we decide to spread this information. We put it on YouTube. We put it on all over the internet. Mamash, a lot of siyat dishmaya. Some people find out about the shiur from different places. They start asking me to come to New York, come to Los Angeles, come to different places. And we go to different places. We start this weekly shiur. Little by little, the little bit of money that I had left becomes even littler. The $1 million becomes $250,000. But $250,000 is still plenty of money. The only thing that's going good is that the shiurim are getting there's much more people. It goes from 1 person to 3 people to 10 people to 15 people to 20 people. And then somebody says Lashon Hara about me, so he goes back to 1 person to 5 people to 10 people to 20 people. And then somebody else, some other rabbi says Lashon Hara about me, so it goes back to 1 person to 10 people to 5 people to 10 people. And Baruch Hashem, I built the shiur about 20 times by now. Why? Because what happens is, I get them to do tshuva. That's my job. People do tshuva. They come to shiur, they listen to halacha, they listen to actual real emet, they do tshuva. What do they do when they do tshuva? They go to Beknesset. Go to Beknesset and they keep saying, Rabbi Yaron says this, and Rabbi Yaron says this, and Rabbi Yaron says this, and Rabbi Yaron says this. And everything Rabbi Yaron says, it's the opposite of what you're saying. So what does the rabbi do? No, don't listen to Rabbi Yaron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, but he said halacha, he said Shulchan Aruch, he said Zohar, he said Tanakh, he said sources. No. He doesn't know he's new. He doesn't know. And now since they see him much more often than me, they see him 7 days a week. They see me maybe once. What happened? Eventually, he influenced them. They stopped coming to the shiur. So I sent them to the shul, and they stopped going to the shiur. And little by little, they become a Chalal Shabbat again. Sometimes they actually stay strong. Once in a while. The key is that you still have to continue. You still have to do what you have to do, because there are many people all over the internet. HaShem created the internet to make a lot of mitzvot and make a lot of sins. You have a choice. You could press a button and get Olam Haba by pressing a button. Why? Because you listen to a shiur Torah, you get motivated, you send the shiur Torah to somebody else. That somebody else can be motivated to do tshuva and send it to somebody else. He does tshuva, send it to somebody else. He does tshuva, next thing you know, you have 20 avrechim under your belt. 20 people are baalei tshuva because you watch one shiur and decide to share it. On the other hand, you can not press the button. Instead, press a button that goes to some site that you're not even allowed to think about. And a person can lose Olam Haba. It's very easy to lose Olam Haba. So when I realized that you could actually get people to simply change without much effort, all you got to do is tell them the truth. That's it. All you got to tell them is, it's written over here. You want to argue with God, it's here. No problem. God's willing to argue with you if you want one-on-one. Just have to go up there, though. You can't blame me. I'm just reading. I'm just reading what he said. You have a problem. You have a problem with God. You have a problem with halacha. You have a problem with chazal, and so on and so forth. And now, little by little, people start realizing that a lot of the suffering that they have is because of themselves, because of their own actions. And that's why the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says, "En mita belo chet ve'en yisurim belo avon." That there is no death that comes to the world without some type of chet, some type of transgression, and there's no suffering without sin. So now, a chet is an unintentional sin, and a avon is an intentional sin. So here we see that it's very unusual. A chet that's unintentional leads to death, whereas an intentional sin leads to suffering. You would think it's the opposite. You would think an intentional sin should lead to death, and unintentional should lead to suffering. No. Death is an easy solution. When a person does an intentional sin, Hashem wants to give him suffering. Why? Because if he gives you death, there's no fixing you. There's no fixing. Why? A person that does intentional sins, he goes to Shemaim, he goes to a place he can't come out of. Where if it's unintentional, it's a different story. Different story, different level of magnitude. You start teaching people that all of the suffering they have in their life, all the suffering that I had in my life, there had to be a reason for it. You start evaluating what you were doing, what you believed, and you compare it to what HaShem said, and you start saying, oh wait, that I didn't do, that I didn't do, that I did, and that's not good to do. And you start realizing, wow, I have a lot of X's, I have a lot of negatives on my list. Now you don't know which one in particular caused the sickness. You don't know which one in particular caused the money loss. You don't know which one in particular caused the divorce, or caused the kid to die, or caused the partner to die, or caused something. You don't really know what caused what. You just know you weren't okay with Hashem. It's very easy to look at the list and think, no, it's not relevant, because you don't feel like doing it. But if you look at it with unbiased eyes, and you look at it honestly, start saying, you know what? It's the list of what I need to do. Even the stuff that I'm doing, I'm not doing it like I'm supposed to. And then you start doing chatanu, avinu, pashanu. So I say, okay, I gotta do something about it. I gotta fix it. Can't fix everything all at once. I gotta do something. So little by little, this is what we did. We started fixing, and one of the things that helped me fix is helping other people fix. So aside from giving lectures, I started sending packages to people, sending people different information that I read, that I listened to, that motivated me. Hopefully it motivates them too. And for years already, I've been sending out CDs of Rabbi Mizrahi's, Rabbi Ephraim's, Rabbi Zamir Cohen, other rabbis that I'm familiar with that I thought were very good. Shiurim on the internet. We started a page on Facebook, and so on and so forth. And little by little, this Kiruv became an actual organization that today we call Be'ezrat Hashem. It's a non-profit organization that all we do all day, 24 hours a day, is Kiruv. Now today, Baruch Hashem, it's more than just me. We have Rabbi Ephraim, we have some Avrachim in Yerushalayim that learn, we have some people that we help them study every month. Baruch Hashem, it's a real organization that does a lot. One of the things we do is we fight Christianity. Because Christianity today is more dangerous than it's ever been before. In the past, Christianity simply was a one-way highway. If you don't become a Christian, they'll simply kill you. That's it. Today, they're not threatening to kill anybody. They're not threatening to kill anybody. Why? Because they pretend to be just like you. They tell you, no, I'm Jewish too, I just believe in Yoshke. We're Jews also. We just believe in Yoshke also. We believe in JCPenney. And they make you feel like it's okay to delve in a little bit, and before you know it, you're 2 feet into Avodah Zarah and you don't even realize it. And they're doing it in a very, very blunt way, in your face. There are several organizations that are very, very dangerous because they're actually getting people to buy into this Avodah Zarah. And we're losing at least a couple of hundred Jews every week just in Israel alone. In America, probably 3 times that. Probably 3 times that are converting to Christianity, are becoming idol worshippers. This is mainly because of a few things. Number one, we're an ignorant generation. We don't know anything. So when somebody tells you, have you ever heard of the suffering servant? It's like, ooh, sounds like a really righteous person. It's like, yeah, this is the forbidden chapter in the prophets called Isaiah 53. And the guy never even read the Tanakh, never read the Chumash, never read Parashat Shavua, never read anything. He just knows a few superficial stories, despite the fact that he has a kippah on. Doesn't mean much. Kippah, it's a piece of thread, it's on your head. Doesn't mean you're a learned person. And they mentioned to him Isaiah 53, Daniel 9, and all other types of things that are very vague. And they start describing something to him. It's like, oh, this person sounds like a really nice person, a really good person, a really this person. And they convince him to admit himself to something that he doesn't actually believe. Why? Because he's ignorant. It's much easier to convince an ignorant person than a knowledgeable person. That is the foundation of Christianity from day one. You look even in the old New Testament. Who are the original students? Who are the original members of Christianity? A bunch of illiterate morons. That's who are the original guys. Why? It's much easier to convince somebody who doesn't know anything. And that's what they're doing every day. We're an ignorant generation. The second reason is because even the ones that want to learn, they learn things that are not impactful. They learn things that are not necessarily always relevant to their day-to-day life. They learn things that make them feel that they're okay regardless of what they do, which is not true. Half of the Torah talks about consequences of not doing what Hashem said. We have a few parashot in the Torah that say some really horrible things. If anyone would just simply read them, they would immediately do tshuva. Because what Hashem said, He's serious about. We may not take it seriously, but He's serious. And what He said is not going away. He didn't change His mind at some other point. So with that being said, people even that come to a shul, they come to a shul and they learn about halachot of Bet HaMikdash. It's very nice to learn halachot of Bet HaMikdash, but we don't have Bet HaMikdash right now. What's that going to do for my life? How's that going to help my marriage? How's that going to get me closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So this is a problem. A lot of the shiurim are just simply not relevant to a lot of people. They're not learning day-to-day musar. All of this is what Be'ezrat Hashem is trying to fix. What we're trying to do is, number one, we're trying to make the ignorant knowledgeable. By telling you exactly what it says in the book. Telling you the opinions of the sages. Telling you what Hashem says, His opinion. No sugarcoating. I don't really care what you can handle and what you can't handle. It's not for me to judge. I'm not a prophet or a son of a prophet. People that tell you, no, I didn't tell you the whole thing because I wasn't sure if you can handle the truth. What makes you think that you can handle and I can't? Well, you're better than me. Your Jewish neshama is better than my Jewish neshama. What, God wrote the Torah just for you and me, He excluded? I have like a kid version of the Torah. What, I have like a special education version of the Torah? You have the AP, Advanced Placement Torah. I have special education. What? Parashat Bereshit. Look what it says. Parashat Noach. Look what it says. Hashem says when we didn't do what He said, He punished us horribly. It says it in the Torah. Why you don't want to teach me that? Don't decide for me what I can handle, what I can't handle. So that's the first thing. I don't know and I don't care what you can or can't handle. I'm going to tell you what it says. Why? Because I know that Hashem knows what He's doing. If you wrote it in the Torah, that means you need to know it. Second thing is spreading that information everywhere for free. Why? Because money is a big yetzirah for people. Big yetzirah for people. So, you want to donate, you're more than welcome to. You don't want to donate, I'll donate to you. Here, there's about $5,000 worth of stuff in those bags. I wish somebody would actually take them. Why? Because that's Torah knowledge. That's actually investment into the community. Somebody wants? Baruch haba. You don't want? What can I do? When I bring a horse to water, you can't make him drink. Most important thing is teach you things that are actually relevant to your life. And we'll finish with this story. There were one time two little kids in Russia, both homeless, both yetumim, both orphans. Parents died. Both were walking around the streets, homeless and miserable. But what can they do? Russian guy sees them, guy is Shomer Torah and Mitzvot, which was very rare in those days, especially the days of Yevsektia, the Yimach Shemam V'Zichram, the communists in those days. Their number one job was to kill religious Jews in every way, shape, or form. Either kill them physically or kill them spiritually. Whatever they could do to kill them. They hated God more than anything else in the world. To find a religious Jew in the old country, very difficult. They found one. And this Russian guy saw these two kids. Their shoes were like slippers, but they weren't really slippers. What made them look like slippers? They both had open mouths. Both had open mouths and you could see the toes. Both had holes in their pants that you made them think they were shorts, even though it's freezing outside. Both had clothes from the earliest century. Both were looking at an apple, but they couldn't buy it because they didn't have a penny to their name. So Jewish neshama sees two little poor kids. What does he do? He wants to help them. He says, where are your parents? He says, we don't have parents. You don't have any money? No, we don't have any money. Come, I'll buy you the apple. He buys them an apple. He buys them each the apple. He goes, where do you live? He goes, we don't have a house. He goes, come with me. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. One condition. What? You learn Torah. You want to learn Torah? Yes. We'll learn anything. Feed us, give us a house, learn Torah, Yishtabach Shemo. Why not? Okay, that's the deal. You learn Torah, everything's good. What's your names? I am Arile. Arile. You know your mom, you know your dad? Don't know. Okay. How about you? I am Yankele. Arile, Yankele. Okay. Arile, Yankele, you're now with me. So he took care of them, sent them to learn a little bit of Torah, little by little. He'd feed them, he'd teach this, that, the other thing. They went to yeshiva, they learned. Eventually, they both grew up, they got married, they both went to America. One day, somebody comes to this old man, this old Russian man now he's old. He says, starts talking to him, he says, listen, we have some people that we need to raise some money to do some Kiruv, teach some people Torah. You can help maybe? He goes, oh yeah, well, I've been doing this my whole life, helping people learn Torah. Oh yeah? Who? No, I have kids, a couple of kids. I don't know where they are now, but I know there was a couple of kids that I raised for many years. I raised them for many years, and they're in America now. He says, what's their names? I'm from America. What's their names? He goes, one is Arile Kotler, and one is Yankele Kamenetsky. He says, what? You mean Rav Yaron Kotler, the Rosh Yeshiva Lakewood? Built all of Lakewood, the most religious community in America and in the world, 5,000 students. You need Rav Kamenetsky, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Gdol Ador, and his son is Gdol Ador also. You raised them? I don't know this people you say, Arile Yankele. That's what I know. Arile Yankele. Arile Yankele became Gdolei Ador in America. For what? Just a little bit of kiruv, a little bit of care. Somebody going out of their traditional stuff that they're doing and decides, you know what, let me do something for somebody else. Even if I don't see a direct benefit out of it. Who knows what could be? Maybe the next CD you give or the next person you bring to the shiur could be the next Rav Kamenetsky. Maybe the next person could be the Stipler Gaon. Maybe it could be a Rav Yaron Kotler. Who knows what it could be? The point is that if each one of us takes the initiative to do some type of kiruv, some type of care for Am Yisrael, you could change the world. Any questions? Beseder Rabotai, I think after I shut off the camera there's going to be a lot of questions, but usually when I ask when there's any questions, nobody has any questions. But the School of Mitzvot, thank you for learning with me. Hopefully next time there's going to be a little bit more people. But HaShem, this shiur will be on the internet tomorrow night. Tomorrow we have a shiur in Aventura. It's a different shiur altogether. It's our series about Musar Pirkei Avot. It's in the Breslov Center. Breslov Center in Aventura. It's about 15, 20 minutes from here, which I know for Florida people is a lot of time. But it's really not. In New York, just to go to work is an hour and a half each way. So when I say 15 minutes, to me, it's like going to the store. But I know for Florida people, 15 minutes is like far. It's like far. So don't worry, the car can reach there. You can actually go, you go on a highway, you get off exit 16, you make a left, you make a left, you make a right, you're there. Be'ezrat Hashem, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.